right, so I'm at the Twins game feeling like a little bit of a big deal. I get to raise the Twins territory flag, and then right next to me, the guy raising the American flag is not only a combat engineer who served in the U.S. Marine Corps from 2007 to 2011, who served in Iraq, Afghanistan. He also started a nonprofit I felt pretty like I'm embarrassed to be raising any sort of a flag.
Like he's a legit big deal,
Yes!
and you're just okay.
That's right. Zach Johnson and I were talking. I'm like, you got to come on the show, and here he is. Zach, it's good to have you with us.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for having me here. I mean, you had the center of the flag. I mean, that kind of tends to be the heaviest part, and I'm only got one hand on it. I'm just doing the cranking. So, I mean, you were hanging the weight.
I was called to assist. When called, I answered the call to assist in the raising.
Very much so.
Zach, thank you for your service.
Thank you for thanking me. Appreciate that.
Tell us a little bit about kind of what inspired you to join the military originally.
Yeah. I was the black sheep of the family, hands down. Graduated Minneapolis Southwest, but before going through all that, I actually went to 4 different high schools. And so just bad kid. I needed self-discipline. That was the biggest thing. 9/11 had happened when I was a junior in high school, and I just saw this need for discipline. I walked into the Bloomington recruiting office, went into the Army actually first, and I said, I don't know anything about this. They said, well, if you sign on the dotted line, you'll be a private in the United States Army. There's a $40,000 bonus, and your college will be paid for when you get out. I said, okay. Walked across the hall of the United States Marine Corps, and I said, what do you give me? And at the time, Staff Sergeant Gormley looked at me and said, we won't give you an effing thing. You want this, you got to earn this. And I said, that's the one for me. And about 3 weeks later, I left and joined the United States Marine Corps in 2007.
How about that?
Yep.
You knew that you needed to earn it.
Yeah. And this was not about the financial being. I've got a 75-cent piece of metal. That is the Eagle Globe and Anchor. That's also tattooed right over my heart. Means everything to me. The title of United States Marine is earned, not given. And again, shout out to all my soldiers, sailors, airmen, Coast Guard, and Space Force. I mean, service is service. All branches are so important, and everybody's got to play a role to make it work and to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So, signed up and played my part.
You're a Purple Heart recipient.
Yes.
And so you were wounded in combat.
Yep.
But the wounds, I think we've learned over the years, the wounds that our soldiers and sailors and all of the airmen, all of the wounds, physical is one thing. They don't give a Purple Heart for the mental anguish that so many people have to deal with when they come home.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And so that was a lot of the thought behind Roger Up was having this organization where the battlefield doesn't end always on the battlefield. A lot of our Marine soldiers, sailors, airmen, they come home and there's a battle that still continues in their mind. And so that's what we really wanted to focus on with Roger Up was, what do we love to do? We love to hunt, fish, be outdoors, all these fun things that we do. But at the core of it, how do we help each other heal? And a lot of times on the hooded sweatshirts that we have, the motto that we live by is it's okay to not be okay. And I'm going to say that one more time to listeners. It is okay to not be okay. Struggling is real. I've been there. I was almost a statistic myself. Those first 2 years of getting out were a big struggle for me because when I was injured in Afghanistan, April 2nd of 2010, I lost a Marine that day from Rochester, Minnesota, Corporal Curtis Michael Swenson. And everything that I do now is to honor him in his life and everything that he did to sacrifice for this great country. And to be able to do that and honor his family just adds so much to the mission now.
Why the outdoors aspect? Because that is one of you have a couple different programs through Roger Up, but what made you say, you know what, I think the outdoors can be healing?
I mean, for me, that's God's green earth there's so much tranquility in it. There have been times I've been sitting in a deer stand. I had a Marine out one time, and I mean, I had drawn back with a bow, and we saw that hadn't kicked the earlings yet. So I put the arrow back down, let the bow go. We just watched the deer and just sat in this pocket moment that was so unbelievably peaceful. The deer, the mother kind of came over close to the deer stand and had kicked the yearling into the woods because she had maybe sensed us, smelled us. Well, then she kind of, where they spray in the air, it's called bleeding. And so she sprays in the air, and he turns to me after this whole thing and he goes, "Oh my gosh," he goes, "I have seen that on video so many times. I've never seen it in person."
Huh.
And that to me is more important than putting meat on the deck and harvesting an animal. That moment is going to live with him forever. And it is so healing, whether you're out on the water and you're fishing, staring at a hole on the ice. There is so much that can be helpful in those situations. And that's where we're taking it a step further to where I will actually be able to do short-term and long-term mental health care, and have therapy sessions while we're doing these things. And that's what I'm going to school for right now.
You're at St. Cloud State working on a
Master's degree as a LPC, a licensed practitioner counselor. And so start internship at the Magnus Veterans Foundation in Dayton, Minnesota. Awesome organization. Big shout out to them. And then, very thankful to be able to do that. I'm donating my 1,000 hours to them. And then we're also training some of our service dogs over there. But then, graduate May 2027 and then go full bore.
Do you think people have a better understanding today about some of the mental health challenges? And I think about my father-in-law who served in Vietnam. My grandpa was in World War II, Purple Heart.
Wow.
But you know, my grandpa, World War II, nobody ever talked about anything.
Yeah. Yep.
My father-in-law, after maybe Tom Brokaw wrote The Greatest Generation and it became a little more acceptable to talk about stuff, he would talk. But I feel shame, and I wasn't even around for the way America treated the Vietnam veterans when they came back.
Heartbreaking, the stories.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's just brutal.
No.
But when you came back, is it better? I feel like it's better, but am I just wishing that it's better?
It's the Vietnam veterans and everything that they did to change the culture. And that was 50 years of hard work. And every time I see a Vietnam veteran hat, I will make a point to go over to that individual, shake their hand, and say, "Welcome home." And I wasn't even alive when the war happened, but it's 50 years too late. And a lot of them are still bitter about it. And a lot of them are still battling demons just based on not their time in Vietnam. It's the time when they got home and what they had experienced. And so it's heartbreaking, but that's where so many of them I'm part of the DAV, the American Legion, the VFW, and I encourage people to join those if they're not a part of them, because they are such great communities and we do a lot of wonderful things. Even this Thursday is Veterans Day on the Hill. So the DAV of Department of Minnesota puts that on. They do a fantastic job with it. I had the pleasure of working for the DAV Department of Minnesota at one point, but it's seeing the Vietnam vets and now having our younger generation of the Iraq and Afghanistan veterans come into play and come up. It's our turn to carry the torch and to really, help move things forward to make sure we're taking care of our communities.
How can people help? How can people help you guys? This is Zach Johnson. Roger Up is his non-profit that helps veterans who are, struggling with their mental health or need some assistance. You guys have a whole program that kind of helps people through, but how can our listeners help you?
Yeah. www.rogerup.org or just rogerup.org will get you to the website. The phone number on there, you get me. I don't have Google Chat or Google Voice or any of that stuff. So my number is the main number. And I'm well-versed. I've got a background with the Department of Employment and Economic Development Veterans Program. I worked helping vets get employment. If people are looking at job seeking or they feel like they're underemployed or unemployed, there's a bunch of programs out there. Always contacting your county veteran service officers, but to know and understand what resources may be available to you if you're in a situation of some kind. But going to the website, going to the bottom and saying, I need services, I need help. Maybe you just want to volunteer. We always look for volunteers for different things, whether it's an outdoor adventure, or encouraging people to come kind of hang around and get to know us a little bit. It's just it's a fantastic organization. We have a lot of fun with what we're doing, and the different programs are all on the website, but I'm happy to talk about those.
Zach, I really appreciate what you do, and we're so glad you got to come in and share a little bit about it with our listeners today.
Appreciate it.
Zach Johnson, it is called Roger Up. So check it out at rogerup.org.